3, 2, 1. Welcome back to
We Disagree
with Nick and Cosmo.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Cosmo. And today we are talking about mind and body is our subject for the day. So this is a broad subject. My orientation towards the question of mind and body is very philosophical. I study philosophy, but my cold open conversation starter is that the history of the problem of the mind is just people not actually talking about it. There is a TED Talk on YouTube of a supposed philosophy professor saying this is the answer to the mind-body problem, and he's just wrong about what the problem is. He's talking about like he's just straight up wrong. He's talking about like these parts in the brain that mirror other people's motions, when that's not what it's about. I don't mean to be angry philosophy guy.
Not gonna name him, but
not gonna name him because I don't remember his name.
There's a YouTube channel called The School of Life, which is founded by Alain de Botton, I think. Mm-hmm. And they make kind of normie videos about philosophy concepts. But they have a video about the mind-body problem where it the entire point of the video is sometimes you don't feel comfortable with the body that you're in. And just sometimes your body doesn't match up with what your mind wishes it was like.
Exactly. The history of the mind-body problem is people taking the name and talking about something else.
I have problems with my mind and body too.
Yeah.
I have the mind-body problem.
I have the mind-body problem too. Well,
I mean, I'm not one to condescend to anyone. I don't. I don't think philosophically about the mind and body. I just lift.
And
I pick up heavy objects, and it makes the hurty in my brain go away.
You're solving your mind-body problem.
Yes.
Well, in that spirit, I think our podcast will also be ignoring the mind-body problem in a similar way, but we're good because I'm acknowledging it right now. That's my virtue. Is it's gonna be so I've got a list of segments. They're vaguely related to mind and body.
All right, well, let's see them. What's first on your roster?
My first segment is something I call pop music analysis. And I need a little intro music here. Where I'm gonna bring you some pop music. Apparently you haven't heard this song, Nick. And I'm gonna this one is actually the most connected to the mind-body problem. I'm using pop music in a very broad sense because this song is by Kermit the Frog. It's called Rainbow Connection. You haven't heard this, right, Nick?
Nope, never heard of it.
Okay, I'm gonna read you the lyrics, and I think I'm here to argue that these lyrics are actually very profound in terms of its interpretation of the subjective and objective in the mind and body and how that works. But I'm gonna read these lyrics to actually really get the sense of the song. I need you to imagine Kermit the Frog playing a banjo.
Okay.
Sitting on a tree stump next to a river. I'm not going to do a Kermit the Frog impression, but imagine his voice as I read this.
Okay.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows? And what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions. They're only illusions. And rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. But I know they're wrong. Wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. So I think this is just an incredible anti-dualist argument that, and like Kermit really is saying, some people say that these sensations of beauty, of color in the rainbow are not illusions. The mind is real, and someday we'll find it. The lovers, the dreamers, and me. And Kermit the Frog himself embodies this symbol of the object becoming subject, you know? He is a puppet, and he becomes a person.
I didn't realize there were so many songs about rainbows. To be honest.
There's Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yeah, I thought of that one, and I can't think of any other songs about rainbows.
I'm sure Kermit has a broader
has a more
repertoire than I do.
encyclopedic
Yeah.
knowledge of pop music.
Uh-huh.
So, to rephrase what you were saying, I'm not quite following yet, but...
Okay, I'll rephrase it. So Kermit, what is he saying? He's saying, some people say rainbows are only illusions, and these illusions really are hiding nothing. These are what people tell us, but I know they're wrong, and so do the other lovers and dreamers.
I guess, so I have to wonder about, like, the conflation of, like, illusions with hiding nothing. Like, I think an illusion is an illusion because it hides something, because there's some, like, mechanism at work behind your experience of the illusion that's not immediately apparent to you. And then as soon as everything is illuminated, as soon as its inner workings are exposed, then it ceases to be an illusion. It just becomes a cool trick. Like...
But yeah, Kermit isn't saying that illusions hide nothing. He says that people are saying, oh yeah, so you're agreeing with Kermit here.
I think so.
Because he's saying these people are saying these illusions have nothing to hide.
Well, then they wouldn't be illusions if they have nothing to hide.
That's not quite right. Like a mirage is an illusion. It looks like something, but it's not anything.
Point well taken. Yeah. What does the rainbow hide?
It hides what the lovers, dreamers, and Kermit have known all along, which is something he does not reveal.
Oh.
It hides Kermit's secret.
This is some, like, esoteric Kermitism.
Yeah, exactly.
Kermiticism.
Kermiticism. Yeah. I like to think it hides Kermit's childish disposition, his ability to see the world with his own eyes.
That's a nice thought.
Yeah.
Is there any additional context in the subsequent verses?
We can look through. Should we read the whole song?
Go for it.
Okay, let me... Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it, and look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? What so we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
I have some questions about this verse.
Yeah, what's your...
So he imagines, like, an interlocutor that says that, who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star. Is he implicitly denying that that's so?
No, I think he's agreeing with that person who's saying, like, I think he's saying, oh, it sounds kind of absurd that every wish would be heard and answered. And he's saying, but look what it's done so far. It's so amazing, it keeps us stargazing. So it might not be true that all prayers are heard and answered, but in that dialectic, there is something amazing. We still are stargazing.
Exactly how far can you disregard, like, the pursuit of truth in favor of, like, just, like, making an amazing dialectic? Like...
Well, I mean, I think what Kermit is saying is that there's an amazingness here that people are not grasping. That's the truth that is not being seen.
But I don't think that amazingness is contingent on the stars actually being able to answer prayers or wishes. That it has, like, the act of making the wish has inherent value. And I think that maybe Kermit is alluding to that too. But, like, that doesn't mean that the question of whether the stars answer the wishes with perfect consistency is arbitrary, it's still a very relevant question, I think.
Really, yeah. And Kermit is saying that it's not.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's wrong.
He's wrong. No, it's he's not saying it's not outright. He's saying, listen, there is something amazing besides this question. The question is not the only thing that matters.
Well, when formulated that way, I agree. Good job, Kermit.
Well, in the form of the song, it's everything's a little bit ambiguous.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Should we read the last verse just to finish it off?
Not?
Have you been fast asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it. The rainbow connection. The lovers, the dreamers, and me. La 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 la.
What do you make of this?
I mean, it's definitely a step away from the traditional examples of subjective-objective difference. Like, before he's talking about rainbows, it seems like an illusion, or it's really hiding something objective. Here he's making, like, a historical allusion to, like, there's a historical voice that have called people out to sea, and I am also being called by that, possibly. And I stick with the interpretation that this rainbow connection, so to speak, is, the childlike demeanor, the perspective.
I mean, when I read this lyric, I think of it less in terms of like a mind-body problem and more as like an epistemological issue with respect to understanding the other and kind of bridging a gap between another person's experience and your own.
Mm-hmm.
And or even like the experience of, I mean, maybe this is what you're saying, the experience of the objective through your subjective gaze.
Yeah, I do think. I think you're right in that Kermit is asking us to see things through his eyes. To say, I see this rainbow connection. It's amazing. It's calling me. It's like a wish upon a star, and I want you to see it too. And here are the reasons why you should.
Okay, that's a nice thought.
Yeah, Kermit's great at being nice.
Yeah, I like when people are nice. I like Kermit. I think I like Cosmo.
Oh, I like you too, Nick.
Thank you for sharing this wonderful little ditty.
Thank you for humoring my love of this weird song.
I'll have to actually listen to it after we record and get the real emotional heart of it. Yeah.
It sounds a lot more intense reading the lyrics. Like, it's very, like... It is an intense song, but in a lighthearted way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should lead into our main segment, Questions from the Internet about the mind and body.
Oh, I thought we were going to bring out the nipple clamps.
Come on, Kermit might be listening.
All right, let's hear the questions.
Okay. So these are just questions I found from Yahoo Answers that say the word mind or body. That was my criteria, and I chose them based on however much I liked them.
All right.
This first one is from Pyrocomulus. He is a level 4 Yahoo Answers user.
Great name.
I did not know there were levels. This is in the psychology section. The question is, to have a beautiful mind? No mind is ever completely without evil, no matter how well the person can disguise it. But what would you describe as a beautiful mind?
What is the actual tagline of the question?
To have a beautiful mind? I think, this person is saying that they are kind of suggesting that the most beautiful mind is the mind that's most without evil. But when I think of a beautiful mind, I think of the movie A Beautiful Mind, about the guy who's really good at math, but he also has schizophrenia, which is weird because he's got a very ugly mind in a lot of ways. Very scary mind, but also he can perform these kind of miraculous feats.
Wow. I think that's a common trope with people like sort of on the fringes. It's almost, when they do have like very ugly experiences, they have really intense like demons, like John Nash.
Yeah.
That it almost follows like an instinct to me. Like it feels very intuitive to say that they have a beautiful mind. So maybe there's something to that, and yet there's no inherent good in like having schizophrenia or like suffering through like paranoid delusions.
Yeah.
And yet like that phrase seems to follow it.
Yeah.
But naturally.
I do notice that too, in that like conversations around geniuses often focus on like their flaws and their mental illness. Do you think that I think it's kind of problematic to say that makes it more beautiful, A person who is just really good at math, saying that, kind of implying that their mind is less beautiful than someone who has overcome mental illness to be really good at math. That kind of seems to be the way the poetics have suggested it.
I mean, I think that evil is bad, evil is evil. There's no like, if you use enough evil it becomes good. I think things that might superficially appear evil can like lead to a greater goodness, right? So
really,
like a beautiful mind, like the most beautiful, or at least like the most perfect mind would have to be without evil, right? But like what we're talking about, like these kind of like fringe cases, is I think a kind of suffering. It's a trial that can yield beauty and yield like honor and moral wisdom by going through with it.
I do like that. I do like the trial aspect of like John Nash's story. Like the only real trial I can think about is like Sisyphus. Is the Sisyphean mind beautiful? One that keeps overcoming over and over again. I mean, it's beautiful in that I can relate to that, and it's, I like that idea of the struggle.
I think that the myth of Sisyphus as an analogy kind of fails because it implies like an infinite like continuity of the trials that we undergo, and yet like they're unsustainable. They're demonstrably unsustainable. Everything comes to a head, and whatever like our exile on Earth means, like it ultimately like must be resolved, and it can't be just like an endless like heaving of the boulder.
But the plot of A Beautiful Mind is that John Nash never overcomes schizophrenia. He always lives with symptoms,
Yeah, he did.
He does in a certain way. He doesn't get wrapped up in his symptoms.
He died.
He died.
He's not schizophrenic anymore.
Is that your end? Your triumph?
I mean, I think that is like the end of our earthly exile. Yeah, but that like to understand it, like to use like this analogy of like the infinite suffering, I think misses out on like the way that we are on Earth. The way that we walk the Earth is unsustainable. It's I think that's original sin, is that which predisposes us to our own destruction. And
but we cannot say that the most beautiful mind is a dead mind.
No, that's not what I'm just nitpicking about the Sisyphean analogy.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think the most beautiful mind is an alive mind. What's wrong with us is what brings things to a head, what kills us and destroys our consciousness. And that just seems to be a kind of baseline condition of humanity. It's like we're tainted and we're predisposed to our own destruction, towards ceding to the ultimate evil. And the only thing the only thing that could prevent us ultimately is supernatural. But
So the most beautiful mind is the supernatural mind. It's E.T.
yeah, well, yes, you must become beautiful in order to become eternal.
Okay. Well, I think we've sufficiently not answered that question for our purposes.
It's there are other trials, like say you're an Australian actor and you're undergoing the trial of deciding which accent you're going to use in a certain movie.
I don't get this reference. Is this a reference to something?
To The Beautiful Mind.
Oh, yeah.
Russell Crowe, I can't believe there was like a moment in like the early 2000s when he was like hyped up as one of the best actors of all time.
He was in Gladiator. Gladiator was so good.
Well, it's an awesome movie. I mean, he was a good action hero, but like it's just like he can never decide on an accent. At least in like those like movies from his peak, like he's just like, "Hello, I am John Nash. My accent slipping. I don't know I don't know the nationality of a John Nash." Like,
well, when I was 14 and I saw that movie, I didn't notice at all. You know, the accent was not a problem for me.
I am from ancient Rome.
We don't even know what ancient Romans sound like. You can't nitpick that.
I know, but I imagine they don't sound intermittently Australian and American and British on a constant cycle. Like,
yeah. Well, this is not a Russell Crowe hate podcast. That's another Cosmos rule is.
I don't acknowledge your rules. I've gone Joker mode.
Only measured critique of my boy Russell Crowe. Russell, if you're listening, I'd love to get you on the podcast. Just reach out.
I will take back everything I said if we can get Russell Crowe on.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the next question?
Let's do it. Our next question is another mind question. It is from an anonymous Yahoo Answers asker. Also in the psychology section, they asked, how can I build a strong mind? A mind that cannot be persuaded to do bad things, that can focus on something very strongly, and no matter what, a mind that has a great memory and is intelligent. How can you build a mind like that? Give details, please. This is extremely important to me. Thanks.
Oh, what a great question.
Yeah. This person is on their self-help journey, and they're asking some big things. Mm-hmm. They want a strong mind that cannot be persuaded to do bad things, can focus very strongly, has a great memory, and is intelligent. Is there a catch-all answer, first of all?
I don't think you can, like, just condition yourself to have a better memory, right? Like, you just have to find, like, the devices that work for you and to practice on those.
Yeah. I mean, that's a way of conditioning. And that seems like the most conditionable thing.
Well, I don't think that's really conditioning. I think that's just, like, amassing knowledge about what works to aid your memory. Like, if you use, like, mnemonic devices or whatever, which I never got into, but I imagine they work pretty well.
Yeah. I can't imagine that this person is asking, how can I remember a series of numbers better? Because that's what a strong mind is. I imagine that they're saying, like, I want to read a book and not have to read it again. I could be wrong, though.
Do you think you can do that? Can you actually, like, through your actions or through your will, condition your mind to remember a book better? Like,
yeah, if you take notes on it, you're going to remember it better, you know?
But again, that's just another device. That's not actually, like, changing, like, your memory.
Yeah.
I don't mean to nitpick, like, this question. It's a good question, but I guess just to get that out of the way, I mean, I don't know if you can really change your memory. You can only deal with what you have.
Yeah.
Your memory is like the lot you're given, and you can overcome or fail according to that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's right. I don't know. You know, I'm not a neuroscientist. I bet it is possible in some respects to exercise your memory such that it improves.
I think you can remind yourself of things, like if you're taking notes, and then make a habit of that. But I wouldn't say, like, technically that really improves your memory. Mm-hmm. But I mean, That's like probably the least important part of the question. Also,
Probably is.
well, how would you have a strong mind? What's your advice?
Man, I guess my thinking here is every decision I have made throughout my life was trying to answer this question. And it was just like when I was a kid, I decided to read books because that's what smart people do. And then I got older and I decided to go to college and study philosophy because that's what smart people with strong minds do. And I'm not sure if I've, made the best decisions. Maybe something like some other radical direction, like going to live in the forest as a nomad would create a stronger mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to decide that. I don't know how to determine what's a good path for strong mind building.
I think what we're ultimately looking for is the subordination of the senses and of sensual desire to the will.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, the will to the intellect.
Yeah.
And some of the best advice that I got in this respect was from a friend of mine from high school who is a trad Muslim. And she said, as far as addressing sexual sin, but really I think it's just like any kind of incontinence whatsoever, the best thing you can do is fasting.
Yeah.
I think that I totally agree within, in a healthy way.
Fasting specifically about food or a general celibacy of things?
I think she means she meant fasting as food. Of course, like a general abnegation is probably useful for similar reasons.
Uh-huh.
But like fasting is so easy because it's purely negative. It's,
Yeah.
it's what you're not doing. And you realize like a kind of like active state, and you realize that you do have it within your power to control your carnal desires.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm not sure if that's like say I wanted to quit smoking, would the advice still be like that's a matter of will, It's very difficult for me to not smoke. Would the way to learn how to do that to be to fast?
yes.
Yes.
Well, at the
We've
very
answered
least,
it.
What you're trying to do is you're trying to fast from smoking. So you're kind of already doing it. Of course, it's not like a food fast, but
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the problem is like because you have like lower energy when you go through nicotine withdrawal, then maybe like you would need to supplement that by eating more. But I think on principle, if you can condition yourself to abstain from eating and like understand the extent of your powers of abnegation, then abstaining from cigarettes is definitely more doable.
Okay. So your answer. So this it works as like a very general answer to this guy. It's to strengthen your will by fasting.
Yeah, like from midnight to midnight, just eat nothing,
Yeah.
drink water. Not often, but
sometimes.
yeah, like a few times a
Yeah.
year, perhaps.
Yeah, that doesn't answer so much the positive things. Like it answers how to not do bad things, but what about be intelligent? Will isn't the only. There are people with very strong wills who are not as intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And also, even like, is intelligence part of the strong mind? I think is another question.
I mean, it makes a mind stronger at thinking analytically about things, I think, by definition. But, like,
Uh-huh.
stronger in this sense, it's just, like, more apt, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, intelligence is another one I would group in with memory. Like, I think it is kind of refers to your kind of baseline. And maybe, like, with, like, neuroplasticity and stuff, like, there are ways that you could make yourself more intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
But only to a limited degree. I think that there is like a kind of there is a kind of your intellectual ability is kind of like your baseline, and you'll be judged ultimately for what you do with it.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that the number one Yahoo Answers user on this question, who answered, totally agrees with you. Their name is Shanky Andy, they're level 5, and they say, tamed mind is your best friend. Mind which is not in your control is your worst enemy. I am assuming that later on, that latter is an issue with you. A little bit weird on the grammar there, but but that's what you're saying. Like, strength, being tamed, not in control is your worst enemy.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's an act of violence.
Yeah.
It feels violent. Put the carnal desire in its place.
Yeah.
But it's a power that I think everyone should muster.
But isn't violence itself so carnal? You're carnally destroying the carnal?
You're right. I'm using sensual language in order to communicate the metaphor.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's inevitable, but that's kind of I think that's a kind of emotional accelerationism, is to take those desires and to leverage them toward their own subjugation.
Yeah. I think I have a different response to the strong mind.
What's that?
I think the wording of strong mind, especially of like intelligent too and not do bad things, is too vague to be really answerable. So the best advice is really just see someone with a strong mind and do exactly what they do all the time.
That's why you live in my old house.
Yeah,
and go to my church.
That's why
have my same haircut.
I steal Nick's life. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there is a limit to like how far you can get by like hero worshipping like someone that you've decided has a strong mind, especially if you get to know them and then you realize that you become more intimate with their failures and realize that they're not, the image that they project per se. Yeah,
but then you learn that you really in that realization you learn that you really are much stronger than you always thought you were. When you look at a hero and you think, I wish I could be strong like them, and then you work up to their level and realize that they are actually very human and fallible, you say, oh, I am strong too, And that's
or you could say nobody's strong, which would be more accurate, I think, in like the really like broad sense. Like nobody is strong. We're like pushed around by circumstance more than we really imagine in our minds, because we have consciousness and we view ourselves as agents. And I think we are, but we're pushed around by circumstance more than we like to admit, right?
Yeah.
So in a broad sense, nobody is strong, and I think that is kind of the conclusion you come to by being disappointed by your idols.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's right. I think it's to say that nobody is strong is just to say that the idea of strongness. I don't know. You can't. I don't think you can say that nobody's strong. Some humans are strong, and some are less strong.
Well, in a colloquial sense, like when we say strong, a person is strong, we're speaking relatively.
Yeah.
So
that means that it is impossible for no one to be strong.
Right. I only say like that nobody is strong in like a kind of like broad, like universal, like technical sense, right? But But yeah, of course, there are going to be some people that are like that do the most with what they're given, that excel within their natural capacities, and those are the people we call strong. But
yeah, and I think the best way to be strong is just to do exactly what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm not as critical of this method as I might seem. I might be misrepresenting my own position.
We are here to disagree.
That's what. Yeah, sorry, I'm failing our mission.
Yes.
We're just reaching consensus after consensus,
Gosh,
and I hate it.
This podcast is so boring.
I think that's what the veneration of the saints is for, is to take, individuals from Catholic history that are strong and in a spiritual sense, and to emulate them in their actions and to consider what they would do.
That's why my veneration of Hegel. That's what I achieved through my veneration of Hegel.
Is Hegel strong?
Oh, so strong.
Why do you know that?
He is so intelligent, and he has destroyed every bit of truth that came before him, which takes ultimate strength.
Yeah, I mean, it's an act of strength to read Phenomenology of the Spirit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's...
You think it's not an act of strength to write it as well?
Well, I haven't read it, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I am not strong enough to read it, so...
Yeah. I was going to say, one of my favorite authors, Hunter S. Thompson, who's just like an insane man, he talked about when he was a kid, he would do things like he would take great works, like The Great Gatsby, and type them out word by word. And he said, I would do this just to feel like what it's like to write a masterpiece. Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Do exactly what you think strong people do.
Yeah, like that episode of SpongeBob where Patrick copies his every act. Oh, you haven't seen SpongeBob?
I haven't seen SpongeBob. Describe it.
Well, there's one episode where I think Patrick is feeling incredibly demoralized by being a big pink idiot.
Yeah.
And so he decides to hero worship SpongeBob and to emulate his every action to the point that SpongeBob becomes incredibly annoyed by it and is basically begging for him to stop being emulated. Because that's another liability of your approach is that, nobody likes a fan.
A fanboy.
Yeah, it's incredibly alienating if you actually are like obsessed with someone within your circle, someone you know personally, and it's incredibly creepy if it's a celebrity or someone that you don't know personally. But everything in moderation.
I think that's just a failure to emulate well. I mean, obviously your hero isn't a fanboy, so if you're emulating them and seeming like a fanboy, then you're doing it wrong.
I mean, if you mimic them in like all of their outward actions, then you would absolutely be a stalker.
Yeah.
It's about, I guess, like simulating their own internal epistemic state within your consciousness.
Yeah, which is it's a worse answer to the question is, if you want to build a strong mind, find someone you think is strong and emulate their epistemic state within your own consciousness. Bing, bang, bong, easy.
I think that's a terrific answer. I don't know what you're on about.
Okay.
Is there another question?
There is a third. This one's about body. It is, this is a Yahoo Answers question asker, Hardy Girl for Life. It was asked in the visual arts section, and the question is, body image? Can anyone tell me about body image? Like, what's body image in, like, other countries? And I chose this because just the idea of body image, it brings together the body and the mind. It's got the images in the mind, body is in the body.
Okay, pick a country.
Pick a country. Slovenia.
Body image in Slovenia. It looks exactly like Melania Trump.
It looks exactly like...
Well, no, it's completely polarized. The body image is either Melania Trump or Zizek.
Yeah.
There is no... Everyone in Slovenia falls on that spectrum.
To be fair, I think both are the peak of their respective genders.
You're right.
Slavoj Zizek.
Well, they're the ideal, and then like the representation it's a shadow on the cave. It's not every other Slovenian is merely a shadow on the cave, whereas Zizek and Melania are the forms.
Yeah. Okay, so our answer to what's body image like in other countries is each nationality has their platonic person that everyone else is a meek representation of.
Yes.
Okay.
I've decided everyone falls on a spectrum of rat or blob.
Yeah.
And every human face looks like a rat to the extent that it does not look like a blob, and looks like a blob to the extent that it does not look like a rat. And it's a spectrum.
Damn.
And it's the perfect spectrum because no matter where you fall on it, it's incredibly unflattering as a comparison, which means that everyone should be equally offended.
You think there isn't a perfect, like, you think that I wouldn't that people wouldn't rather be 50% rat, 50% blob
No,
than 100%
no, that means
rat?
that gives you the worst of both worlds, if anything. Not that people in the
To be
middle
a
of the
blobby
spectrum.
rat?
Well, I'm just saying that, like, yeah, you look like, oh, you only look halfway like a rat and halfway like a blob. Like, it's not actually better than looking like fully like rat-like as far as human faces go, or fully blob-like.
Okay. I think we so Nick's answer to the whole question of body positivity is we all look like an amalgam of hideous features. It just depends on which hideousness comes out in you.
I mean, like, okay, you look at me. Do I look more like a rat or a blob to you?
Definitely more like a rat.
I agree, and you too. I think that we both fall fairly along like the rat side of the spectrum.
Both ratty.
Right.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I've never seen the system fail. I think everyone looks like a rat or like a blob.
You haven't seen it fail because it doesn't do anything. Like, there's no criteria.
My model is just too correct.
Right.
My model is so perfect that it's functionally useless.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you can scale everybody, but I don't see it. But
It's a good conversation starter.
yeah,
Go to a party someday and rate everyone on a scale of rat to blob.
rat to blob. I bet you could come up with an even better one.
Well, what's your idea?
I don't know, but I bet you could do like a trifecta of. Damn, I gotta think of one now. I think like rat, worm, fish. Everyone, you're a little bit rat fish. You're almost zero worm.
Really?
Yeah.
It's hard. That makes it a lot more abstract. I mean, that's definitely an interesting amendment to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've held to the rat blob spectrum for years. I'm fairly content with it as a model, but I am open to amendments and alternative models and ways of seeing. So.
Just wait till I come out with my pentagonal animal diagram.
This is like so much more real and useful than like all of the political compass memes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
We agree.
We agree. Gotta change the name of this podcast.
Wow.
Check out my new compass test, rat or blob. We would make it so far on BuzzFeed.
I'll pick a country for you.
Okay. See, it's hard.
Yeah. Panama. What is body image like in Panama?
I don't even know what a Panama person looks like.
You don't even know the national demonym.
Like I've been to Costa Rica. I think that's within 1,000 miles, maybe.
Okay, I'll try it. Portugal.
Not easier. I'm not, I don't know what a Portugal
Finland.
person. Finland. I don't know. I can imagine a Northern European person. I had one professor that I think was from Finland named Johannes Lacherway, which I'm sure I'm butchering his last name. He is a scrawny, tall philosopher who talks about like Rousseau a lot. He's got a thin mustache. He's my peak Finn.
There's no way that's his real name.
Johannes Lacherway?
That'd be like if I told you I had a professor from Mexico and his name was Casas Los Migos or something like.
I don't know. That was his name.
All right, I'll just have to take your word for it.
I have to take my word for it.
I don't really know anything about Finland either.
Yeah. Is there the flag? No. The Danes are the flag with the big plus.
All the Nordic countries have big pluses except for Iceland, I think.
Except for Iceland. Yeah, I don't know anything.
They speak Uralic language.
Yeah?
Yeah. They are from Finland.
Well, this has been our anthropology podcast where...
I just picture all of the Nordic countries as like a land of decaying, rotten fish skeletons.
Really?
Yeah.
I have the image of the, like, socialist utopia, where everyone lives in cottages and all their prisons are very nice.
I disagree. Rotting fish skeletons.
This
That's
is
the
not
Nordic
this
countries.
is not a meaningful disagreement. our respective, like, what's the connotations around countries we know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why people...
Here's a new segment. I name a country, and you do free association with whatever words come to mind.
This has already approached the edge of offensive. I don't want to... I'm not above having...
Oh, you're saying that as soon as I say a country, you start having problematic thoughts about it? Is that what you're admitting?
but my immediate thoughts might be problematic for reasons I don't immediately recognize.
All right. You can veto this segment.
No, we can do it and then talk about why that reaction is extremely problematic. And this segment is called "We Are Racist." Accidentally, please, but we're trying to get better.
All right, let's just pick a random country and to get started, Israel.
Israel. My friend just moved back from Israel. She's got conflicting emotions about the conflict there. It seems very complex what is going on.
Well put.
Yeah, and I think of challah bread.
All right, it's been a good segment. I think we'll discontinue this one now.
This is why people delete their earliest podcasts, because they do stuff like this. Well, we can move into our final segment.
Let's hear it.
This is where we're going to ruminate on one of Nietzsche's epigrams from Twilight of the Idols. I decided to do this just to, like, contrast the pop music analysis. You know, I like a little bit of high culture. I like, not that Kermit the Frog is low culture, but he's not a canonical philosopher. So I'm trying to get my toes in all the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I've chosen one that none of them mention mind or body, unfortunately. You seem like one would. But number one is, idleness is the start of all psychology. What? Would psychology then be a vice? And it's very topical to our discussion about great minds. Idleness is the start of all psychology. What? Would psychology then be a vice?
How were people idle back then?
Yeah, that is such a good question.
Because, like, they didn't have, like, computers, they didn't have iPhones, they didn't have TVs, they didn't have radio. Like, what would you do to waste time if you lived, like, pre-1920s? Literally,
Yeah.
like, anything I can think of doing would be productive in some sense, or
Yeah.
edifying. Like, even
Like,
if you
you're
just
sitting
sit there doing nothing, like, that's meditation. Like, you're actively, like, doing something, like, productive, more so than, like, scrolling through Twitter, right? Like,
Yeah. But the antithesis of that would be that they think that we have no idleness. They see us scrolling through Twitter and they're saying, man, you are taking in so much information, you must be super mega brain. Yeah, I wonder if, like, their cognitive state while, like, walking through the forest and, like, reading erotic poems is the same as ours scrolling through Twitter.
yeah, well, I mean, when I'm, like, walking through the forest, I think my mind is just, like, so irony poisoned that I'm just like, oh, what if I Chad stride through the forest? Based. Epic LOL. Like, I can't even appreciate walking through the forest in that, like, baseline cognitive state because it's ruined. It's ruined by my utter lack of idleness.
Yeah. I bet they have similar ruinations that we're just not aware of, you know?
Just like, oh, have you seen this traveling circus in town? Like, the traveling circus, it rots your brain. You can't watch too much of it. Like,
yo, have you seen all the pictures of naked ladies I've drawn? I'm getting better.
I feel like that's still, like, more edifying
Even
than
that?
watching porn. Like, yeah.
You're saying, like, that's like saying, like, you're right now you're arguing that the furry artists drawing porn are better than me and you scrolling through Twitter, which I agree.
Yes.
But I don't think a lot of people would agree.
I mean, I think that I'm against porn on principle, but I would say that, like, yeah, like, drawing porn is probably, like, more edifying than just consuming.
Yeah.
I can't even hear myself say the word consume without thinking of the meme, like, oh, I'm gonna consume. Like, I'm ruined.
Yeah.
This is a cry for help.
So psychology was created to help people with, mental illness. In Freud's time, he saw people who are neurotic. We need a new psychology that would be a vice to help you and your irony poisoning.
Where do you even begin with that?
You begin with...
I'm listening.
Internet study. Like that book, Kill All Normies. That's a book about irony poisoning and how internet culture affects young people.
That's one I have not yet read.
I only know of it because Zizek read it and he likes it a lot.
I know Angela Nagel pretty well and like what she's about, but I have not read Kill All Normies myself.
Well, that's your step. That's your step on the road to the new psychology.
Huh. I mean, I think like from what I understand, like Nagel is almost like a purely like descriptive like social scientist. I don't think she can help me. I don't think she offers a way out. She's just portraying the dilemma that we're in.
Well, I mean, that's step number one.
Yeah. Admit you have a problem.
Admit you have a problem. There are 11 more steps, if I understand AA correctly.
Why don't you dissect this epigram?
Okay, the punctuation is so weird. That's why both times I said it, like I kind of stumbled because it's hard to know how to say. Idleness is the start of all psychology. What is he saying there? He's saying we need psychology. I'm assuming he's talking about the actual study of psychology. Mm-hmm. He could be talking about just like mental happenings,
I feel like since it's a relatively new field, he's probably being deliberate in using the name of the field.
Yeah? Okay. So he's saying that we need this field to have sprung up because our idleness causes problems in our psychic life. Do you think that's right?
Can you repeat that?
So he's saying we need psychology because idleness has caused problems in our psychic life. I'm imagining psychology as the attempt to fix our psychic problems. Mm-hmm. And idleness, he's saying, is the cause.
Why is it a vice?
Because then psychology would be fixing these things that have a different source, Mm-hmm. It's helping people who refuse to be not idle. Mm-hmm. You and me. We go to therapists to, help ourselves even when the quick solution to our problem is to stop using Twitter. So we get into psychology to enable our idleness.
Oh. It almost ties back to the strong mind point.
Yeah.
Because it's like it kind of fits in with like this trend, like this type of analysis that Nietzsche specializes in, of like explaining how your beliefs are a cope. Mm-hmm. And in this case, you could interpret it as coping with your incontinence, your lack of ability to be comfortable in your idleness, mm-hmm. and doing so by creating an entire academic discipline rather than just like mastering your will and becoming comfortably idle.
Yeah. Man, what a workaround. Create a whole new study just to continue in your little vices. You're watching porn and scrolling through Twitter.
How many academic disciplines, how many departments at NYU do you think were created by that?
I think it'd be harder to identify which were not.
Yes.
Oceanology. That's got to be like a real, that. You think people are just studying the ocean to enable themselves using
just
Twitter?
Like, damn, I wish I was an ocean. Maybe,
yeah.
I can't live with this. I got to create a discipline to study it because I have not come to terms with my desire to be an ocean.
Maybe I'm not appreciating the weirdness of particular fixation.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Of course, my reaction to this kind of question all the time is every field but philosophy is bad and wrong.
They don't realize how much they're beholden to philosophy.
Yeah.
You know what the best evidence for this proposition is?
What?
If you go on Wikipedia and click the first link
Yeah.
on any article outside of like the IPA, like diacritic stuff and like pronunciation key, but the first link in like the proper like body text, it either sends you into an infinite loop or it takes you ultimately to philosophy.
Yeah. And that can't be a coincidence.
Nope.
No?
Must be because philosophy is the foundational discipline.
I totally agree, Wikipedia.
Yep.
Thank you for your representation.
Did you hear about the Scots Wikipedia scandal?
No.
Apparently, according to Vice, a self-identified Christian INTP furry has been the main administrator of the Scots language Wikipedia page. Are you familiar with Scots?
No.
So there's Scots Gaelic, which is different, and Scots proper is like a Creole language that is taken from Scots Gaelic and Middle English. Mm-hmm. And there's a Wikipedia in Scots, and the main administrator is a Christian INTP furry who was in high school when he started getting involved.
Nice.
And he does not know Scots at all.
No.
And almost all of the articles on Scots Wikipedia were created by him, and he just goes through typing in like a completely like mangled like stereotypical Scottish accent, and then sometimes he'll use like the Scots to English online dictionary, and if it just replace word by word like from the English Wikipedia page, and then if there's not a word he just leaves it as is.
Wow.
And he this has been going on for 7 years and nobody noticed.
God. People just don't read the Scots Wikipedia page enough?
Apparently not.
Like, wow.
Yeah, it's completely like it's just like completely mangled English. It's not even in Scots.
Take that, every high school student that tried to argue Wikipedia was a source.
Yeah, well, Scots Wikipedia is a source.
Wikipedia, at least. But how many others?
That's true. Maybe Bislama Wikipedia. I'm watching.
Yeah. Alex knows Afrikaans. I wouldn't trust him to.
Wait, there was also a problem a few years ago because apparently one of the Wikipedia editors for Croatian had or one of the Balkan languages, he had like very controversial opinions about the Yugoslav wars.
Wow.
Or no, it was the Holocaust. I think it was on the Croatian Wikipedia.
And
that,
he
like,
put his opinions in on there?
Yeah,
like...
he was the administrator of that Wikipedia.
No.
And yeah, he is the singular of Wikipedia Wikipedium?
Maybe. Wait, what is... So the website is the Wikipedia, and an entry is a Wikipedium?
I think you could say... No, I mean like each individual language has a Wikipedium, and Wikipedia is the conglomeration of all the Wikipedia.
We'll have to do some etymology.
That's true. Well, I know from Latin that the a in one of the noun forms the is its plural is with the a. So that's why datum becomes data in the plural.
Well, we've reached an hour. Should we start wrapping things up?
Sure.
Let's do final thoughts.
Oh, I'm not ready for this. You go first.
Okay. Give me a second to think. My final thought is that the ultimate advice that I can give to anyone who has a great mind, the only advice I have that could ever be helpful is read Hegel's Phenomenology of Spirit 10 times.
I disagree. I think you should read it exactly 9 times, no more. Because I like multiples of 3.
Well, Nick, I don't think we can be friends with anymore.
Anyways,
this has been We Disagree with Cosmo
and Nick.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.